You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today, local leaders react to the passing of former Secretary of State Colin Powell.
Gorgeous start. We are going to have to put up with some winds, but wait until we see the weekend and how warm it's going to get for the latter third of October. All the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center. Also, NASA launches a deep space probe aimed for Jupiter. All that and more coming up.
Fox News starts now.
Thanks for joining us for the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. Leaders from our region expressed their condolences to General Powell's family when he passed away yesterday. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly says she is deeply saddened by the loss. She remembers Powell as a statesman, a skilled and thoughtful leader who was committed to seeking nonpartisan solutions in the best interest of Americans. And Missouri Governor Mike Parson sent his and his wife's condolences, saying Powell dedicated his life to this nation, our people, and to the protection of American freedom. Powell, who was fully vaccinated against COVID-19, had multiple myeloma, a cancer of plasma cells that suppresses the body's immune response. He was set to get his booster shot this past week, but fell ill and was not able to receive it. Even if fully vaccinated against COVID-19, those who are immunocompromised are at greater risk from the virus. Powell also had Parkinson's disease. The Kansas Bureau of Investigation is looking into the death of a Crawford County jail inmate who officials say was assaulted by another inmate. Authorities say 20-year-old Dante Martinez of Pittsburgh was found injured in a common area of the jail. EMS provided medical aid and took Martinez to the hospital, where he later died of his injuries. Jail officials determined surveillance video that through surveillance video that 25-year-old Gavin Wood of Arma attacked Martinez. Wood is now charged with second-degree murder. The National Assessment of Educational Progress has released the largest national report card, and scores are down in some states. NAP monitors the academic performance of 9, 13, and 17-year-old students with long-term trend assessments. The data goes back nearly 5 decades to the early 1970s. On the state level, Missouri and Kansas were both down compared to the last assessment in 2012, but not much compared to the national average. Oklahoma was down significantly compared to the national average. The NAEP has not yet released specific district information, but area districts monitor their own numbers closely.
We're checking our students' progress and we're checking their growth. And while proficiency rates are important, and that's what you see with state assessments, it's that growth target. And if a student is behind, what is their expected growth in order to catch up? And are we growing our students academically?
Later in our next half hour, we'll hear more from the Neosho and Joplin districts on recent performance and what statewide numbers look like on the national report card. Fort Scott Community College yesterday was host to the high-stakes competitive world of math. Hundreds of students from 18 area schools rolled in for the math relays at Fort Scott. The kids tested their skills in mental math, set algebra, equations and inequalities, geometry, and more. They were given 15 minutes to complete tests in their categories.
They study for these. So each of the math teachers, they get copies of these tests and they work with their students that really enjoy math and they prepare for these math contests. So if they're not an athlete, they may want to just be a mathlete.
333 students took part in the math relays. Worker shortages are an issue all over the country, right here in the 4 states as well. Since the surge of the Delta variant, many businesses have been struggling to hire and maintain new employees. In our Making It Work report, we went to Grove, Oklahoma, and the town has been hit hard by a worker shortage. Their Chamber of Commerce president says that has to do with the area relying so heavily on tourism, which was impacted by the pandemic.
It's been a challenge for us here in Grove and Grand Lake. Because of the seasonality of our community, a lot of times we will have issues trying to, ramp up for the summer months and things, trying to find workforce. But with COVID and some of the impacts from that, it's been an increasing problem here in Grove and Grand Lake.
Chamber's president says they've held career fairs with other chambers throughout the region to try to bring more workers to Grove. Business leaders from across Kansas were in Pittsburgh yesterday for the annual Chamber of Commerce Executives of Kansas Conference. Conference provides attendees with conversations that can make their organizations more effective in their communities. And it gives Pittsburgh a little exposure.
This is a lovely community. Everybody's been so welcoming and inviting, and particularly at the end of hopefully the end of a pandemic period. We feel safe and protected, and it's just a great location, and there are people here from as far away as Colby, Kansas, and all directions, so it's a perfect place to host this convention.
Topics included legislative advocacy, marketing, board governance, and much more. Well, a bride and groom in the southern Indian state of Kerala yesterday navigated a flooded road by floating in a giant cooking pot to get to their own wedding ceremony. Now, a few men guided the vat through the floodwater, with the couple able to eventually perform their wedding rituals in the city of Alappuzha. They said they had fixed the wedding and held it at an auspicious time despite the flooding. That's according to the groom's mother. The wedding came the same day that leaders in the state opened near overflowing dams. At least 22 people died when flooded rains lashed the region over the weekend. Rainfall across Kerala triggered flash floods and landslides in several areas, with the Indian Army and Navy called out to rescue residents. And they didn't care. They said it's time to get married.
All's well that ends well. I mean, they look very happy there at the end. I just wonder as that relationship and that marriage progresses, who gets to hold it over the other one's head when there's an argument and it's, do you know what I did for you on our wedding day?
Or who's,
do you remember me braving the floodwaters for you?
Or whose turn is it to cook dinner tonight?
Oh, okay.
They're in a cooking pot.
Right, he looks at the pot and it's just like, no, not that pot. No, you got to get another pot, right? You got, like, that one becomes kind of a family heirloom.
Yeah, they only bring that one out for the big family dinners, the feast.
They bring it out for the anniversary.
Yeah, the 1 year anniversary.
One time a year.
Hey, we
like
freeze
look,
cakes
see,
there, they use cooking pots.
Look at them. Actually, go this way.
Nice.
Look at them. All's well that ends well. Happy couple right there.
Aw.
Happy wife, happy life, happy cooking pot. There you go, 4 states. Live look outside of Television City. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous Tuesday morning. I want to point out, we'll be talking about this as the show goes on. Full moon is going to be officially tomorrow, tonight into tomorrow. But if you get a chance to take a look at it, it's going to be absolutely gorgeous as it was this morning. 57 right now in Chanute, 50 in Monette. We've been able to escape any of the 40s that we had earlier. Cloud cover for the central and eastern portion of the 4 states, clearing off to the west. The clouds trapping in the heat that we had from yesterday afternoon, making it for a very mild morning. A little warm streak struts in there from Texas all the way up to Oklahoma and then through us. The ridge of the jet stream, we got some pretty good movement yesterday. It was about right here, and so really a whole lot of eastward progression of it. Broke up on the northeast and got that winter storm hanging out there through portions of Utah that'll make to the upper plains. It won't head toward us by any means. 74 for a high today and a whole lot of sunshine. Are going to have an uptick in the wind as it will come in from the south, 10 to 15 miles per hour later on this morning, and eventually gusting up to 25. So similar in nature to what we had yesterday, if not a tad bit stronger, actually. Get through Tuesday unscathed. Wednesday, even the rain that we will see going to be very light. Majority of the 4 states stays dry. There it is, originates up to the southwest, and then it really doesn't want to take off until it gets east of the Ozarks. So our accumulation numbers are going to be nil, and we don't even show up in the marginal category on the severe thunderstorm risk map. 7-day forecast. Now, while these temperatures are pretty mild, if not a little bit above average for October, look at the weekend. Whoo, we're going to roll some 80s up there. Also increase those chances of rain, but that'll be pretty warm here for the latter third of the 10th month.
Hard to believe it's going to be back in the 80s, but you know what? That's way better than the 90s or the 30s.
Better than having to go to your wedding cooking pot.
Yeah, although that would be kind of fun, you have to admit. Up next, the latest big screen adaptation of Dune hits the big screen. And later, NASA probes the furthest reaches of space. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. The U.S. gets a poor rating when it comes to too much salt, and one group of women could see a big health boost by starting breast cancer screenings sooner. Naomi Ruckham has today's top health stories.
Earlier mammograms may help reduce breast cancer disparities for Black women. A study from Georgetown University found if Black women begin screening every other year starting at age 40 versus age 50, breast cancer deaths could drop by 57%. Black women are 42% more likely to die of breast cancer than white women. The U.S. ranks second in the world for highest salt content of processed meat and fish. A 5-country study published in BMJ found salt levels are highest in China and lowest in the U.K. The foods studied included canned, frozen, and cured animal products, along with meat alternatives. Doctors warn high salt intake is a major cause of high blood pressure, along with heart and kidney disease. And a new poll shows younger children are getting hooked on social media. A survey from the University of Michigan found that half of kids ages 10 to 12 and a third of children ages 7 to 9 are using social media apps. And while most parents track their kids' use of social media, more than 30% of kids are finding ways around parental controls. Those are some of the day's top health stories. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News, New York.
A suspect leads police on a destructive high-speed chase on a tractor. Police in Queensland, Australia pursued a suspect after he used a front-loader tractor to pull a smash and grab on a couple of motorcycles. Oh, man. Authorities caught up with the suspect as he tried to get away with both motorcycles dangling from the tractor. And that's when things got even crazier. After dropping the bikes, the suspect led officers on a high-speed tractor chase through residential streets and then through fields and eventually turning into a foot chase. Authorities, with the help of a canine unit, found the suspect in a creek where he was taken into custody.
Seems like overkill when it comes to stealing a motorcycle. Then again, I don't have any background in that field of expertise.
Wouldn't it be faster to just hop on the bike and take off?
Just seems like there's an easier way. You know? I don't know, if he was going to go in through a bank or something, maybe then I get it. Two motorcycles? Oh, what can I say?
Tractor probably isn't the best getaway vehicle.
Not my cup of tea.
No, Michael, Tanya, no. We don't really have the insight on the best way.
This is the introspective that you and I lack when it comes to these stories. We're like, I've never tried to heist
we can speculate all we want,
with
but
a tractor. I don't know. What are you doing this weekend?
Not stealing a motorcycle.
Live look from 7th and Rangeline. Just absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous Tuesday. Temperatures have been very cooperative and really will be for the rest of the week. 54 degrees is where we stand right now. We also like the low humidity because that means we don't have any fog concerns. 50. Our low spot now in Monette. It was Cassville, but now it's Monette. 57, our high spot right now in Chanute. 54 in Joplin. Let's roll 51 in Pittsburgh and Lamar. Miami chiming in at 52. Calmer winds down to the south, but what we're seeing is the uptick out to the west as we've got Chanute right now. Remember, these aren't wind gusts. These are sustained winds. And so we'll easily get gusts of 20 to 25 miles per hour, probably mid-morning for the western portion of southeast Kansas. And then by late morning, early afternoon, we'll get the high winds there for our central portion. Still warmer than what we had yesterday. Almost in some cases, it's been about 10 degrees warmer. 7-day forecast with a whole lot of sunshine today. Mid-70s, a little light rain. Wednesday afternoon and evening along and south of I-44. And then mild temperatures to end the work week and 80s over the weekend. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. I took a little flack last week. Took a shot at the new movie Dune coming out. Said something to the effect of, if you've got 8 hours on your hands, if it's like the original one. Had a couple people say that, a little off base right there. Probably didn't need to throw that part in. Well, then I found out that the director of Blade Runner 2049 is also directing Dune. The new runtime of Dune is longer than the original one. By the way, if you got 3 hours and you don't want them back, you can always watch Blade Runner 2049. Here's our man Rick Demigello with a look at Dune.
You have proven you can rule yourself. Now you must learn to rule others.
Timothée Chalamet stars in Denis Villeneuve's adaptation of Frank Herbert's Dune.
One of the first scenes I've done with Timothée was the gum jabbar scene.
The test is simple. Remove your hand from the box, and you die.
I witnessed a physical transformation into Paula 3Ds in his face, and there's something that came up from Timothée that day that if you had seen me behind the monitor, I was crying and dancing of joy because I said, oh my God, he's truly Paula 3Ds.
If anything happens, will you protect Paul?
With my life.
Rebecca Ferguson portrays Paul's mother, Lady Jessica.
She's so complex and layered. She's not just strong and cool and a concubine. You know, this woman will put her son in front of a test where the outcome can become death for the greater belief.
Fear is the mind killer.
My Lord Duke.
Where the fear is gone, only I will remain.
In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
Although if it would have been Sean Young on screen for, the original Dune for the 2.5 hours, I would have been great with that. Dune arrives in theaters on HBO Max. Going to do so on Thursday. We'll be back with more KOM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
It's time to honor today's four-state hero, Corporal Earl Hemphill in the U.S. Army. The soldier from Columbus, Kansas, joined the service in 1952. Corporal was stationed in Alaska during the Korean War, earning a National Defense Service Medal. To U.S. Army Corporal Earl Hemphill, we thank you, our four-state hero. Well, NASA has just launched Lucy space mission towards Jupiter's orbit. NASA researchers hope it will help them learn more about the history of the solar system. Kristen Fisher reports.
3, 2, 1, liftoff. Atlas V takes flight.
Lucy is finally in the sky. The NASA spacecraft is on a 12-year mission covering 6.4 billion kilometers to fly past 8 ancient asteroids. Lucy's the first mission to investigate the Trojan asteroid swarms, which are asteroid clusters along Jupiter's orbital path. Armed with cameras, a thermometer, and an infrared imaging spectrometer, Lucy will collect the first high-resolution images of these asteroids. The spacecraft gets her name from the Lucy fossil, an ancient human ancestor whose remains transformed the study of hominid evolution. NASA hopes its Lucy transforms the understanding of the evolution of the solar system. Both the fossil and the spacecraft's name are nods to the Beatles hit Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Lucy is going back in the sky with diamonds. Johnny will love that. Anyway, if you meet anyone up there, Lucy, give them peace and love from me.
And Lucy does indeed carry a diamond as part of a beam splitter assembly. About 3.5 years from now, after making a few flybys of Earth for a gravity slingshot boost, Lucy's expected to reach her first objective, an asteroid named Donald Johanson in the asteroid belt between Earth and Jupiter. She'll then travel to the Trojan asteroids, all named after the heroes of Homer's Iliad.
The power of what Lucy is able to do by having so many targets, we can construct all these comparisons between all the different varieties and the diversity that we see in the Trojans, the unexpected diversity, the different colors, the different collisional histories. It's really a repository of fossils, as we like to say, of things that happened at the earliest stages of solar system evolution.
The spacecraft, a little more than 14 meters from tip to tip, is powered by 2 giant solar arrays that'll expand outward like Chinese folding fans. They'll carry Lucy farther away from the sun than any other solar-powered spacecraft. Lucy will never return to Earth, but she won't be the last to visit the asteroids. NASA plans to send more. China and Russia are teaming up on an asteroid mission in 2024, and the UAE in 2028. Kristen Fisher, CNN.
Another half hour of news and weather is just ahead. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, authorities bring murder charges against an inmate at the Crawford County Jail. Don't wait to pick up Halloween supplies or it may be too late. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be right back.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:29. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Leaders from our region expressed their condolences to General Powell's family when he passed away yesterday. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly says she is deeply saddened by the loss. She remembers Powell as a statesman, a skilled and thoughtful leader who was committed to seeking nonpartisan solutions in the best interest of Americans. Missouri Governor Parsons sent his and his wife's condolences, saying Powell dedicated his life to this nation, our people, and to the protection of American freedom. Powell, who was fully vaccinated against COVID-19, had multiple myeloma, a cancer of plasma cells that suppresses the body's immune response. He was set to get his booster shot this past week, but fell ill and was not able to receive it. Even if fully vaccinated against COVID-19, those who were immunocompromised are at greater risk from the virus. Powell had also had Parkinson's disease. The Kansas Bureau of Investigation is looking into the death of a Crawford County jail inmate who officials say was assaulted by another inmate. Authorities say 20-year-old Dante Martinez of Pittsburgh was found injured in a common area of the jail. EMS provided medical aid and took Martinez to the hospital, where he later died of his injuries. Jail officials determined through surveillance video that 25-year-old Gavin Wood of Arma attacked Martinez. Wood is now charged with second-degree murder. The Aep has not yet released specific district data, but local districts have their own monitoring in place for student performance. KOAM's Chris Warner spoke with the Neosho and Joplin school districts about the trends they are seeing.
Since district numbers aren't currently available from the NAEP, we asked the Joplin and Neosho school districts about state standardized testing results. Joplin saw a decrease in those test scores, which Superintendent Dr. Melinda Moss attributes to a couple of things: the abrupt end of the school year in 2020 and the chaos of the 2020-2021 school year.
Last year was frequently disrupted with isolations, quarantines. We had more students migrate to virtual education. We had hybrid schedules. We had a lot of things that, to me, really, at the end of the day, emphasize the importance of regular attendance, and it emphasizes the importance of in-person instruction.
Down the road in Neosho, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Nathan Manley says they actually saw a bump in their test scores. Manley says keeping kids in school is one of the best ways to keep scores going in a positive direction.
It starts with their safety and well-being, them having some consistency every day, being provided the best education possible. So when we take that out of the equation, it leaves a lot up in the air, and you're just not sure what's going to happen, because we know it's important for them to be here.
Both districts have implemented changes that aren't focusing on standardized test scores as much as they're focusing on student progress.
We're checking our students' progress and we're checking their growth. And while proficiency rates are important, and that's what you see with state assessments, it's that growth target. And if a student is behind, what is their expected growth in order to catch up, and are we growing our students academically?
We certainly met and talked about what standards and objectives were most important, how we were going to look at those, how we were going to teach them. And that's been a big piece, and when students aren't able to meet that, we try to give them additional time and support to get there.
In Joplin and Neosho, Chris Warner, KOAM News.
An Aep report says overall scores are up across the nation since the 1970s. We have links to that data on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Worker shortages are an issue all over the country, right here in the 4 states as well. And since the surge of the Delta variant, many businesses have been struggling to hire and maintain new employees. In our Making It Work segment, we went to Grove, Oklahoma, where the town has been hit hard by a worker shortage. The Chamber of Commerce president says it has to do with the area relying so heavily on tourism, which was impacted by the pandemic.
It's been a challenge for us here in Grove and Grand Lake. Because of the seasonality of our community, a lot of times we will have issues trying to, ramp up for the summer months and things, trying to find workforce. But with COVID and some of the impacts from that, it's been an increasing problem here in Grove and Grand Lake.
Chamber's president says they've held career fairs with other chambers throughout the region to try to bring more workers to Grove. Business leaders from across Kansas were in Pittsburgh yesterday for the annual Chamber of Commerce Executives of Kansas Conference. Conference provides attendees with conversations that can make their organizations more effective in their communities, and it gives Pittsburgh a little exposure.
Everybody's been so welcoming and inviting, and particularly at the end of hopefully the end of a pandemic period. We feel safe and protected, and it's just a great location, and there are people here from as far away as Colby, Kansas, and all directions, so it's a perfect place to host this convention.
Topics included legislative advocacy, marketing, board governance, and much more. Some elementary students in Neosho, Missouri got into the fall spirit yesterday with a trip to a pumpkin patch. Benton Elementary hosted the event for its kindergarten students. It's part of a lesson the kids are learning about involving pumpkin characters. The event featured activities like hay bale jumping, sensory corn tubs, and ring tosses.
They get to see the animals that a lot of them have never seen before. Today, my kids are really excited because they've never seen chickens. So they got to see those. They get to have this time where it's free play and it's exploring for them, which is something that's really important because kids learn through play.
Pumpkin Patch event took place at Benton Elementary. Well, Monday was Jason Sedakis Day in the actor's hometown of Overland Park, Kansas. The city's mayor recently signed a proclamation to make October 18th Jason Sedakis Day in honor of the actor's work on and off the big screen. The Ted Lasso star didn't make it there to celebrate, so a cardboard version stood in. That's always good. But he is a big part of the local event each summer that raises money for Children's Mercy Hospital. Sedakis also hosts a concert and comedy event which raises money for a charity that helps people who've lost limbs.
One of the performers at the Big Slick event that they have each year up in Kansas City raises millions of dollars for Children's Mercy, and I know Children's Mercy's played a role in many a four-state family's life as well. So interestingly enough, and I had a friend of mine in Kansas City that was telling me about this. I'm like, that's really cool that you guys are doing that, especially with the amount of money that Sedakis helps raise with Big Slick. I think he was a Shawnee Mission. Anyway, Eric Stone Street, Modern Family, you know who's also from Kansas City? He met his wife at the Big Slick event while Sedakis was performing.
Nice.
How crazy is that?
That's
I mean,
small world.
I heard that story. I think yesterday. I was like, that's crazy. I had no idea. Live look outside of Television City. Hello, Glow Cloud. There we go. We are off to a marvelous, marvelous start. We're going to have a great looking Tuesday. Daily Almanac full today, though that record high dates back to 2005. Remember, yesterday was also 2005 and not that far removed from what was a scorcher of the middle of October just 16 years ago. There we are over 7th and Rangeline. Cloud cover beginning to move off to the east. A very comfortable 54 degrees is where we stand. Drop down to back to the 40s for Monette and Cassville, but certainly not too bad. Chanute's been very static at 57 degrees. Miami at 51. Eventually we'll top out in the mid 70s. Only factor for today is it's actually going to be a little bit windier than what it was yesterday. We'll come in at 10 to 15 miles per hour and gusts close to 25 miles per hour. A little bit of light rain along and south of I-44 on Wednesday. Then get ready for the 80s by the time we get to the weekend. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. The murderous Michael Myers is back, terrorizing the survivors of his previous big screen rampages. I loved him so much I wanted to bring him back for round 2. Here's our man, Rick Damigella.
Halloween Kills picks up moments after the end of 2018's Halloween.
We didn't have to make up a bunch of well, this is what I was doing for the last 5 years. It was pretty easy, actually. I was happy. I think it's a bold move.
It was like going back to camp. We had almost virtually the same crew, the same cast, and then also, camp, knowing that we have some new faces coming in that we've heard about for the last 40 years.
I just feel really fortunate and blessed to be part of this franchise. And again, particularly because it's a movie that people are expecting and waiting for, which is really a lot of fun, man.
For Jamie Lee Curtis, an important sequence was challenging to film.
The scariest time I've had on a Halloween movie is when they called action and 300 people started running at me, with me in the middle of it all. And they were told, move her out of the way. If she's in your way, move her out of the way. I mean, obviously they were told, don't hurt her. I'm Laurie Strode! She Ape, it's not him! That is not something I've ever dealt with. I've never stood there and faced an onslaught of angry people racing at me. And that was intense, and it's intense in the movie. I want to take his mask off and see the life leave his eyes.
In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
I don't care how old he gets, every time I see Anthony Michael Hall, I just immediately go Breakfast Club and Weird Science. Evidently, I'm just stuck in 1985. Halloween Kills opened with an estimated $50 million at the weekend box office, even as it also debuted on the Peacock streaming service. Time now to turn our attention to the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Something to Talk About. It's statues of controversial historical figures. New York City's Public Design Commission voting unanimously to remove a statue of Thomas Jefferson from City Hall. It's a statue that stood inside the council chamber for more than 100 years. Our question for you, should states remove statues of controversial historical figures? It's been overwhelming and consistent all morning long. 92% of you say no. The statues should stay, as opposed to only 8% that say yes. You can make your voice heard each and every morning. Appreciate all the engagement. It's been wonderful this morning. You can either connect to us via our Facebook page, KOAM News Now, or go straight to the poll, koamnewsnow.com/vote. We'll be back right after this.
As people get into the Halloween spirit, the Better Business Bureau is warning consumers to be wary of holiday scams. The Bureau offers a few tips to keep yourself safe during the spooky season. First, use a credit card rather than a debit for any online purchases, as it offers more protection. Also, when shopping at a seasonal store, ask if they will be open after the holiday and about their return policy.
A lot of things people are purchasing online, sometimes they're not arriving. So people, unfortunately, scammers are using this as an excuse. They're using the whole shipping crisis. They're saying a lot of things that may be true, maybe not true, but they're taking advantage of the news and they're taking advantage of the situations.
The Bureau also recommends always doing your research before making a purchase and entering payment information. Halloween stores are haunted by the global supply chain nightmare. It's making decorations and costumes hard to come by. Now shoppers are advised to buy what they need and buy it now. Carolina Cruz has more on how it's impacting a Kansas City area store.
Ghouls and goblins are vanishing fast.
All of our animatronics they just go out the door as soon as we get them. All the decor goes out the door as soon as we get it.
Larson is an assistant manager at Spirit Halloween in Shawnee. She's noticed the shopping craze for months.
I heard parents saying, get what you need now because it could not be here when you come back. And that's been going on since August.
Larson is dealing with the grim reality of delays in the supply chain and doing her best to keep shelves stocked. But by the end of the week, shadows creep in where merchandise is running low.
There's not a lot to choose from. I didn't know if I just got a late start or if there's just not the supply.
Halloween is a big deal for Paula Roberts. She starts planning her haunted house party 8 months out. For a second year in a row, she's ghosting the idea because of the pandemic.
I really want to go back and have my Halloween parties again, and I don't think there's any way I could have done it this year because of the supply chain.
Even though there's no bash this time, she will be dressing up for trick-or-treaters. And for those still searching for a costume,
my best advice is, if you see it, get it. Don't think you're going to come back in a day or two and pick it up, because I guarantee it's not going to be here.
The National Retail Federation expects Halloween spending to hit a record $10.14 billion. We'll be right back with more after this, but first let's take a look at the market prices before the opening bell.
James Bond, no match for Michael Myers at the box office. David Daniel with estimates of the weekend's top 5 films.
Will not punish those who tell the truth.
The Last Duel had a rough first weekend. The historical epic starring Matt Damon, Jodie Comer, and Adam Driver debuted in 5th place with just $4.8 million. The Addams Family 2 made $7.2 million to finish 4th in its 3rd weekend out. Venom, Let There Be Carnage gobbled up $16.5 million for 3rd place and a domestic total of $168 million.
So you're not dead. Hello, Q, I've missed you.
No Time to Die didn't have much time on top. The Bond flick fell to 2nd in its sophomore weekend, earning $24.3 million for a 10-day domestic total of just under $100 million.
Tommy.
A killer debut for Halloween Kills. The latest horror flick in the long-running franchise opened with $50.4 million in ticket sales, even as it also debuted on a streaming service. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
How about that? When you woke up this morning, you didn't know you were going to see Anthony Michael Hall twice. And I'm a sucker for Jamie Lee Curtis. I readily admit that. What a gorgeous, gorgeous sight we have outside of Television City right now. And temperatures you cannot complain about. As we sit at a very mild 54 degrees over 7th and Range Line in Joplin. Low humidity as we've had all morning long. And of course we like that because that means we don't have to fight any of the fog. A whole bunch of mid-50s ranging throughout southeast Kansas and northeast Oklahoma, kind of dropping down into the low 50s, along with south of I-44 through southwest Missouri. 52 in Pittsburgh, 51 in Miami, and 54 right now in Lamar. We are seeing the winds increase out to the west. Now we've got Indy and Chinook, both at double digits. Those are sustained winds, not gusts. So we know that by the time we get to the late morning, early afternoon hours, that's where we'll have the gusts of about 25 miles per hour. And slowly but surely, we'll see the blue and the yellow indicating the higher winds make their way on the eastern portion of our highlighted counties into southwest Missouri as well. It's going to be hard to escape the wind today, but at the same point in time, it's been a combo. Number one, the south wind. Number two, the cloud cover that's actually presented us with warmer temperatures than what we experienced at this point in time yesterday. Clouds are moving off to the east, didn't have any precipitation with them. Out to the west, high pressure system. It really runs from about Texas all the way to the Great Lakes right there, right along the jet stream. So what we've got cooking here is a whole bunch of mundane weather throughout most of the Midwest, at least till tomorrow. Northeastern section of the United States lost its storm activity as the trough moved off to the Atlantic. The bridge, big one right here. We got to remember, yesterday it was pretty much over the Dakotas. So that thing's got some pretty good legs, and it's moving quickly, which will take the warmth and kind of dispatch it east of the Mississippi. And then you got this behemoth right here. And, you know, you look at it, you go, well, what's the big deal? It's the Rockies, it's Utah. They get snow in October. Well, yeah, but when you transition and look at winter storm warnings that they have, that's of a different kind. Now, what that thing will do is actually move into the upper plains. It's not going to affect us at all because we've got nothing to worry about but sunshine and temperatures in the mid-70s later today. As we get into Wednesday, that'll be our next shot for a little rain. It'll come down from the bottom right there, south-southwest, and just kind of sprint along I-44 for Wednesday afternoon and evening. That's about the extent of it. Now, it does begin to get a little hectic as it gets east of the Ozarks right here and makes its way towards St. Louis. We're not going to have hardly any accumulation, but really from about St. Louis all the way up to Chicago right there, that's where that thing wants to take off and present high winds and even the possibility of hail. And you find we're just on the cutoff right there where it actually originates. As we work toward the weekend, we are going to have temperatures up into the 80s for the latter third of October. That's a little bit warm. Not going to approach any records. We'd have to get high 80s, low 90s to break any records, but still pretty impressive for this time of year, and some additional shots of rain there Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. We'll be back, wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. Former Secretary of State Colin Powell is being remembered as a military and diplomatic trailblazer. 84-year-old died of COVID-19 complications yesterday. Powell's family says he was fully vaccinated but had been fighting cancer for several years. Former President Donald Trump is asking a federal judge to stop the White House from turning documents over to the House committee investigating the January 6th assault on Capitol Hill. The lawsuit argues that the materials serve no legislative purpose and should therefore be withheld from Congress. President Biden recently provided the committee with 125 pages of records related to the riot. Washington State University on Monday fired head football coach Nick Rolovich over his refusal to get the coronavirus vaccine. The school also dismissed 4 of his assistants for the same reason. Rolovich is the first major college coach to lose his job over his immunization status. Let's check in with Michael with a final look at your forecast.
It would have been interesting if they would have had a 500 record to see what they would have decided to do. He's going to appeal that. That was interesting to watch that over the weekend, though. 7-day forecast, mid-70s, sunshine today, light rain along and south of I-44 on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, mild October temperatures. We got a little bit of a warm front on our hands for Saturday and Sundays. We'll be into the 80s.
Well, Saturday was World Cat Day. Perfectly named Catter Day. Well, the day is aimed at bringing awareness to humane and non-lethal programs for cats. Felines face euthanization at a much higher rate than any other shelter animal, but programs geared at capturing and neutering can help control populations, and they make it possible for stray cats to live full and healthy lives. To honor this global day and help save cats and kittens, find a program near you to support or visit a shelter and consider adopting a new feline family member.
Shout out to my good friend Jeff Wilbert, who's salt of the earth. And I hope he didn't see that story right there. What up, Pittsburgh Rotary? You know what I'm talking about. All right, thank you for letting us put the good in your morning. Back with more news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.